Hi, I'm Dr. Sofia Jain, board-certified urologist, and today I'm going to share with you something that's rarely talked about openly, yet impacts millions of older men in silence: masturbation mistakes after 60. You see, touching yourself isn't shameful. In fact, it's often healthy. But the way many men approach it later in life can actually work against them, harming their nerves, prostate, and even emotional well-being without them realizing it. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 7 most common self-pleasure mistakes men over 60 are making, and what to do instead to protect your energy, your function, and your dignity. Stick with me, because mistake number 6 is something almost no one talks about. And yet, it could be the reason you're losing sensitivity or struggling to feel like yourself. Let's begin. Mistake number 1, relying on porn too often. Now listen, I'm not here to judge. Most of my patients have used adult content at some point, but here's the issue. When you're over 60, your nervous system isn't as flexible as it once was, and what overstimulates the brain can desensitize the body. That means if you're constantly relying on fast, flashy clips to get aroused, your mind starts needing more extreme content just to respond. Over time, that rewires your pleasure pathways. You may notice that regular touch doesn't feel the same. Intimacy with a partner becomes harder to enjoy, and even achieving an erection can feel like a challenge, not because your body is broken, but because your brain has been conditioned to need stimulation that's no longer natural. Here's the truth. Dopamine, the pleasure chemical, works differently in older age. When it spikes too quickly, like it does during intense porn watching, it crashes just as fast. That leaves you feeling empty afterward, even if you climax. And over time, your baseline levels drop. You lose motivation, energy, even confidence. So what's the fix? Try going without for a week. Practice self-touch with your imagination or gentle memory instead. It might feel dull at first, but your body will begin to reawaken its own rhythm. This is how you restore sensitivity and connection, not with more intensity, but with more intention. Mistake number 2, poor positioning. You might be thinking, how can the way I sit or lie down possibly matter? But it does, a lot. The positions you choose when pleasuring yourself affect blood flow, nerve compression, and even your pelvic floor health. I've seen men develop chronic numbness, tingling, or even sciatica-like symptoms from years of masturbating in awkward positions, especially when sitting hunched over for long periods or putting pressure directly on their perineum. That's the area between your testicles and anus, and it's filled with delicate nerves and vessels. When you cut off circulation there repeatedly, over time it leads to real damage. So here's what I recommend. Use positions that support your lower back and keep your pelvis relaxed. Lie on your back with a pillow under your knees, or stand comfortably with one foot elevated. You're not a teenager anymore, and your body doesn't bounce back the same way. Give it the posture and support it needs, because when your muscles are relaxed and circulation is flowing, you not only avoid injury, you enhance sensation and recovery. Mistake number 3, rushing the process. We live in a fast world, and for many older men, that habit of being quick, discreet, and goal-oriented sticks around long after the urgency is gone. But here's the catch. When you rush, your nervous system stays in fight or flight mode. That blocks full arousal. You don't get the same blood flow, you don't get the same hormonal response, and most importantly, your body doesn't get the healing benefits of climax that it used to, because pleasure isn't just physical, it's chemical. When you slow down, your body has time to release oxytocin, dopamine, nitric oxide, all the feel-good molecules that support erection quality, mood, and recovery. A quick release might satisfy the moment, but it won't nourish your system. So take your time. Explore. Focus on breath, touch, sound, whatever helps you drop into the moment. This isn't a race, it's a practice, and your body, especially after 60, thrives on presence more than pressure. Mistake number 4, neglecting your pelvic floor. Most men think the pelvic floor is just a women's health issue. Wrong. Your pelvic floor muscles are what control urine flow, ejaculation, and erection stability. And as you age, those muscles weaken, especially if you've had prostate issues, lower back pain, or spend a lot of time sitting. When those muscles are weak, you might notice dribbling after urination, trouble maintaining an erection, or even a feeling of numbness during climax. But here's the good news. Just like any muscle, you can strengthen your pelvic floor. How? Kegel exercises. Yes, even for men. Just squeeze the muscles you'd use to stop the flow of urine. Hold for 5 seconds, then release. Do that 10 times, 3 times a day. It may feel strange at first, but the payoff is massive. Improved control, stronger orgasms, and better recovery. You deserve that. You've worked hard your whole life. Don't let weak muscles steal your pleasure now. Mistake 5, doing it too much or too little. Let's talk frequency. There's no one-size-fits-all answer here, but many older men fall into one of 2 traps. Either they keep up the same frequency they had in their 30s, ignoring how their recovery time has changed, or they stop altogether, thinking their sexual chapter is over. Both extremes can harm you. Too much stimulation depletes your energy, irritates your prostate, and increases inflammation. Too little, and you risk stagnation, loss of circulation, and decreased function. So, what's the balance? For most men over 60, once or twice a week is a healthy rhythm. Not because it's a rule, but because it allows the body to recover while keeping the tissue alive and engaged. Masturbation isn't just about pleasure, it's a circulatory event. It keeps blood moving to your genitals, helps nourish nerves, and supports hormone balance. So be mindful. If you're exhausted afterward, you may need to pull back. If you feel sluggish or disconnected, you may need to reconnect. Listen, your body is talking. You just have to slow down enough to hear it. Mistake 6, using too much pressure or force. This is one of the most common and yet most harmful mistakes I see in older men, and most of them have no idea they're doing anything wrong. They come into my office saying, "Doctor, Jane, it just doesn't feel the same," or "It takes me longer than it used to." And when we dig a little deeper, it almost always comes down to this: using too much grip, too much friction, or pressing down with more force in an attempt to feel more. But here's the harsh truth. Force doesn't bring sensation back. It destroys it. Your penis is made up of delicate nerves, sensitive blood vessels, and soft tissue that becomes more vulnerable with age. When you squeeze too tightly or use aggressive movements, especially over years or decades, you risk causing real, lasting damage. I'm talking about micro tears in the skin, scarring under the surface, loss of elasticity, and even Peyronie's disease, which can cause curvature, pain during arousal, and a drop in erection strength. These aren't just temporary problems. They can permanently alter the way your body responds. And beyond the physical toll, there's a mental cost too. When you start to associate self-pleasure with struggle, when it becomes a fight just to feel something, it rewires your brain to see touch as frustrating or disappointing. That alone can disrupt your arousal patterns, your confidence, even your emotional health. So here's what I tell my patients. Treat your body with reverence. Use lighter touch. Warm up slowly. Use lubrication if needed. This isn't about being soft. It's about being smart. You've only got one body. Don't punish it for aging. Support it with care. Which brings us to mistake 7, and this one goes even deeper than the rest. Past the body, past technique. Mistake 7. Masturbating without emotion, connection, or intention. This is by far the most invisible mistake and, in my opinion, the most damaging one of all. Because it's not about how you touch yourself, it's about why. Too many older men have reduced self-pleasure to a dull habit, something mechanical, something they do in silence, in secret, without any emotion. And over time, that strips away the joy, the connection, the meaning. I've had men in their 60s and 70s tell me, it just doesn't feel the same, or I don't even know why I do it anymore. And what's really going on is that they've disconnected. The act becomes hollow. There's no presence, no warmth. And what happens then is the nervous system stops associating touch with reward. You may still climax, but you don't get that release of oxytocin, the bonding hormone, or dopamine, the motivation molecule. Instead, you're left feeling flat, empty, and that feeling compounds over time, feeding loneliness and shame. But here's what I want you to hear. Solo pleasure doesn't have to be mechanical. It can be sacred. It can be affirming. It can be a moment where you connect with your body, even in its older, slower, softer state, and say, thank you. Your body has carried you for decades. It deserves gentleness, not judgment, gratitude, not guilt. Bring your full self into the moment. Breathe, slow down, touch with care. Remember that intimacy starts with presence, and that includes with yourself. Now, let's take a step back, because if you're still here, it means something. Maybe you've made one or more of these mistakes. Maybe you've felt some of the disconnection I've described. Maybe you've wondered if it's too late to turn things around. But I want to tell you something clearly. It's not too late. Your body, even now, is still speaking to you. You just need to start listening differently, because the truth is, the rules for pleasure change with age. What worked at 30 might not serve you at 70. And that's not a failure. That's an invitation to reconnect, to bring back circulation to your lower body, to nourish your nervous system, to support your hormonal rhythm in a way that brings energy, not exhaustion. Even if you don't climax every time, even if the sensations have changed, the benefits of arousal, blood flow, and intention still matter. 1 to 2 times a week, done consciously, gently, with presence, is often the sweet spot for most older men. Not because it's a strict rule, but because it keeps the system alive. And remember, there is no gold standard, no perfect number, no right or wrong. What matters is whether you feel connected, whether you're honoring your own needs, whether you're letting your body speak and responding with kindness instead of control. Because even if you're doing it right, one instinctive habit can still undo all your progress. It's easy to fall back into old patterns, but it's just as easy to create new ones if you know what to change. So now that you know the 7 mistakes, what do you do about it? First, let's stop blaming yourself. These aren't mistakes because you were lazy or careless. They happened because no one taught us better. No one told you that porn could desensitize your pleasure centers. That posture matters. That rushing robs your nervous system of rhythm. That pelvic floor strength supports your erections. That too much or too little can throw you out of balance. That force doesn't restore sensation. It damages it. Or that intimacy without emotion is like food without taste, nourishing on paper but unfulfilling in reality. And at the root of all of it is one thing: disconnection. Every single mistake we've talked about comes down to this: disconnection from your body, from your emotions, from your habits, from your purpose. That's the real danger, not aging, not desire, not even technique. When you stop paying attention, when you go numb inside, when you treat your body like a machine instead of a living, breathing ally, that's when problems start to grow. That's when pleasure fades and shame creeps in. But here's the good news. Awareness changes everything. Once you become aware, you start to see the subtle signs. The way your body tenses when it's tired, the way your breath shortens when you rush, the way your heart responds when you bring more care into the moment. And from that awareness, you can begin to rebuild, slowly, gently, intentionally. No need for drastic changes. Start with presence. Choose quality over quantity. Instead of numbing out, try tuning in. Instead of chasing climax, explore sensation. Touch with gratitude. Breathe with awareness. And allow the experience to be more than just physical. Make it emotional. Make it spiritual. Make it human. Because here's the truth. This phase of life isn't the end. It's a transition, a shift, a deepening. And while the fire of youth might burn differently now, the embers of wisdom glow even brighter. You have the power to reclaim your vitality, to reignite your connection, and to embrace this stage of your life with dignity, strength, and joy. But only if you're willing to change how you relate to your own body, not with fear, not with shame, but with respect. You've been through too much to keep repeating the same cycles that drain you. You deserve to feel good again. You deserve pleasure that's healthy, not harmful. You deserve peace, not pressure. And yes, this includes intimacy with others, but also with yourself. Because no relationship, no partner, no experience can replace the one you have with your own body. If that connection is broken, everything else feels hollow. But when it's strong, when you truly honor and listen to yourself, everything else becomes richer. Your confidence, your energy, your health, even your relationships, they all grow. They all thrive. That's the power of mindful, intentional self-care, not just for your genitals, but for your entire being. So, what comes next? Start small. Change one habit this week. Maybe it's how often you touch yourself. Maybe it's how gently. Maybe it's your mindset, your breath, your intention. Choose one thing and commit to it, not for performance, but for connection. That's how we build new rhythms. That's how we heal. And remember, I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to remind you that your best years are not behind you. They live in the way you show up for yourself now, in how you treat your body, in how you honor your pleasure, in how you reclaim your story. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just a medical talk. It's a reminder that you are still alive, still capable, still worthy of feeling deeply. Masturbation, when done right, is not a problem. It's a powerful tool. But when it becomes mindless, rushed, pressured, or disconnected, it can steal from you silently. Don't let it. Reconnect, restore, reclaim. Your body is still listening. So start listening back, with care, with curiosity, and with love. Let's bring it all together now. Ignoring the bigger picture is easy. Life gets busy, routines take over, and before we know it, we forget to check in with ourselves. But your body is still speaking to you, even if it's quieter now. If you've stayed with me this far, I want to speak to you not just as a urologist, but as someone who sees your journey with respect and empathy. I've sat with men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, and the one thing I hear over and over again is regret, not for aging, but for waiting too long to pay attention, too long ignoring the signs, too long assuming decline was inevitable, too long thinking they were alone. But you're not alone, and you're not too late. You've just learned the 7 most common mistakes older men make around masturbation, and none of them came from failure or weakness. They came from patterns, habits built over years. You didn't know your circulation was slowing. You didn't realize your nerves were more sensitive. You didn't think your emotions needed a role in pleasure. But now you do, and that changes everything. Let me be absolutely clear. There is no shame in seeking pleasure. There is no guilt in using your body to feel good, comforted, relaxed, or even just human. What becomes dangerous is when we stop paying attention, when we treat our body like a machine that's supposed to perform no matter what, or worse, when we disconnect completely, when we give up. Every mistake we've talked about today, too much porn, poor posture, rushing, pelvic neglect, imbalance, force, and emotional emptiness, they all have one root: disconnection, and that's what you must guard against. Not age, not desire, not even dysfunction, but the slow, quiet loss of connection to your pleasure, your presence, and your body's wisdom. That's the real threat. But here's the beautiful truth. It's not too late. It never was. Your body may not respond like it did at 25, but it's still talking to you. And if you listen, really listen, it will guide you back to sensation, back to peace, back to strength. Just like an old beloved instrument, it may need tuning, patience, and care, but it still plays. And when played with love, it creates something deeper, richer, more meaningful than before. So what can you do starting today? Start small, breathe deeper, slow down, be curious again. Use intention instead of autopilot. If it feels disconnected, pause. If it feels rushed, slow down. If it feels empty, bring meaning back. You're not just stimulating skin, you're awakening your spirit. Rebuild your relationship with your body one touch, one breath, one choice at a time. And I want you to know, I've watched men transform, truly transform, when they stopped seeing aging as a decline and started seeing it as a transition, a shift towards something wiser. You deserve that shift. You deserve energy. You deserve comfort. You deserve connection, even in the most private, personal parts of your life, especially there, because those quiet corners, those hidden routines, those are the places where dignity is either built or lost. So let's build it with care, with kindness, with wisdom. Reclaim the part of you that's been ignored, misunderstood, or dismissed. And if this video helped you in any way, please don't keep it to yourself. Like it, subscribe, and share it with another man who might be quietly struggling too. You never know who needs to hear these words. And remember, your story is not over. Your best years are not behind you. They're in how you choose to live this next chapter, with presence, with purpose, and with pride.